Hi, my name is Regina Byrnes. I am a spirit medium for people and pets. My journey with spirit began when I was a young child. I could feel spirit around me as far back as I can remember. And when I was a little kid, my psychic abilities were wide open. I knew things would happen before they did, and I knew what people were thinking and feeling without them ever having to say a word. Then when I was about 11 years old, I had a very vivid experience that I'll never forget. I was outside playing with my brother one night when suddenly I got this vision that I was a passenger in the helicopter. I couldn't see out the windshield, but all I could see were the instruments lit up this bright orange color, and in my peripheral vision to my left, I could see the pilot. As the helicopter swirled around in circles going down, I had felt the most extreme fear I had ever felt in my life. And I had this absolute knowing that I was going to die. I'm sure the vision had only lasted a few seconds, but it felt like several minutes. I screamed and I cried, and I ran home being greeted at the front door by my mom, who could hear me coming from my screams. When I got there, I begged and pleaded, asking her to stop it from happening, but there really wasn't anything she could do with the information she had. So I went to bed that night, and the next morning my mom wakes me to show me the headlines of the newspaper, which had read that a helicopter had crashed in a town over from ours, and that the two men inside had died. Well, very validating to receive that information. It left me confused and angry. I just couldn't figure out why I would receive such information if there was nothing I could do about it. So I decided right then and there that if there was nothing that I could do, that I didn't even want the information. Well, because I consciously decided to start blocking this information out, I began having very vivid dreams that lasted for several years. I mean, even to this day, sometimes I'll still have dreams giving me information of what's going to happen. Then when I was 19, I had a near-death experience where my heart had stopped beating and they had to shock me back to life. This experience gave my life a whole new profound meaning. I knew that I was going to end up touching the lives of more people than I could possibly imagine. I didn't know how, where, when, why. I didn't know any of that, but it was just this absolute knowing that I had. Shortly after that, I began seeing spirit three-dimensional translucent. And I began hearing spirit as clearly as you can hear me speak to you right now. Then in my early to mid-20s, I began losing my physical eyesight due to my diabetes that I was diagnosed with at age 2. By the time I was 26, I was legally blind. I met my husband, we got married, and had our first daughter. And within a few years, we moved to Florida from New York. Within a couple of years of being in Florida, we had our second daughter. And then just 2 years after that, I ended up losing my eyesight completely. This began another whirlwind, downward spiral, deep depression path that I ended up going on. For the next year and a half of my life, I had suicidal tendencies. I felt like my husband and my children would be better off without me. I felt like my life no longer had purpose or meaning, and that I was useless. If I couldn't see, what could I possibly do? This continued for about a year and a half. I became so physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually depleted, and I began aching tremendously from head to toe all over, to the point where I had finally had it. I just couldn't take the pain anymore. And I began to talk back to the thoughts that were going around in my head. I became angry and started to tell myself that my life did have purpose, and that I did have meaning, and that there was still plenty of things that I could do. I remembered my love for animals, and I decided right then and there that I was going to raise guide dog puppies. Within 2 weeks, we had our first puppy in our home, and her name was Morgan. And for the next year and a half, my life took on a whole new path. This was a path of healing. With Morgan, I learned how to get outside of myself and to get back into service. I began studying A Course in Miracles and Qigong and acupuncture and acupressure and herbs and raw foods and physical fitness and everything and anything that I could get my hands on to heal myself. Within a few years, my family and I moved into our new home. And although I was still ignoring Spirit, Spirit was still continuing to try to communicate with me. And I had this one particular spirit who I thought I knew who it was, but I wasn't sure because I kept ignoring him. But he was very persistent. He would walk around and shut off my radio and move things and open and close doors. He would touch my arm and do everything and anything he could to get my attention. And I continued to ignore him until one day when my daughter was leaving for school. The second the door closed, the radio went off. And I had it. I was like, all right, that's it. And I thought it was my friend David, who had passed just a few years prior. So I had said to him, I said, David, if this is you, I know that you love me and I know that you would never hurt me. So if this is you that keeps doing this, please just tell me whatever it is that you want. I went in and I sat down on my chair. And for the next 20 minutes, Dave and I communicated. I was bawling in tears. I was just so filled with joy from the experience, and I just couldn't believe that I have spent my whole life pushing Spirit away, when at this moment in time, I realized communicating with Spirit was something that I was always supposed to be doing. I decided then that I was going to study and learn everything I could about communicating with Spirit. I began studying under well-known spiritual teachers. I started taking workshops at the spiritualist camp in Casadega near my home here in Florida. Within a short time, I was ready to go public with my work, but I still lacked the confidence it took to do it. So I decided that I was going to pray, and I was going to ask Spirit that if this was what I was meant to do, if being a spirit medium for people and pets and helping the lives of more people than I could possibly imagine was what I was supposed to be doing, then I wanted an absolute definite yes. I didn't want any answers that would leave me confused. I wanted to know for sure. And if I wasn't, then I asked that it be released from my being right now at this time. Well, within an hour, I was randomly called to get up on stage in front of 200 people and do readings with James Van Praagh. It was the most amazing experience I've had in my life. And while I was up there giving readings to the audience members, James stops and he looks at me and he just says, wow, I absolutely love your energy. And he says, you are really good at this. You should be doing this for a living. Wow. Spirit couldn't have been any clearer with that absolute definite yes through James that day. So as soon as we got home, I went public with my business. And for the past few years, I've been helping hundreds of people with my work. I am a spirit medium, and I communicate with the souls of those who have crossed over, whether they're humans or animals. I can also read energy. I see people's auras, and I can see what their gifts are and where their blocks are. I offer psychic coaching sessions to help people move forward with their lives and into their gifts and into their power in releasing their blocks. Thank you for taking your time to get to know me better, and I really look forward to working for you.